Hey, what's up? It's Singano here talking about figuring my life out in my 30s. And this channel is basically dedicated to how I'm trying to figure out my life still, specifically my career, and then just things I'm learning about life along the way. So, my hope is that you learn something, I learn something, and we have that knowledge sharing in that process. So today it's going to be part two of my whole discussion on industries I've worked in the accounting and finance field. So today I'm going to talk about my second job that I've had in this whole space. So the first video I talked about how I started off as an auditor, and now my second video will be where I ended up next. So after audit, I went into industry specific type of finance work. So what that means is when you leave the accounting big four world, this is kind of common. People go to industry, so they're doing either accounting, finance, and they're doing more of an operational role where you're doing what needs to help the business run, essentially. So I did that approach and I went into a finance role at one of the media and entertainment companies here in Los Angeles. And it was honestly, when I first started off, just a breath of fresh air initially in terms of my schedule. So when I tell you, when 5 o'clock hit, my boss was already locking his door and ready to go out. And I said, oh, say less. And that was honestly just the day I was like, oh wow, they really value their time here. It's not that deep. We'll get what needs to be done. So that was like honestly like the memory I have of my job. But all to say, I really appreciated how people approached their work-life balance, which I know that phrase can be annoying at times to hear, but it was honestly a real aspect. And I saw it in a healthy way at this job, and just in terms of when you get the work done, we're good, you could go. And also, another aspect of this job was just the idea of being able to not have so much pressure of these like external deadlines. Like I mentioned before, in audit, a lot of it's based off of regulatory environment and what you need to do for the SEC or whoever needs these documentation for the public so that we all know what's going on with this company. Operationally, it was just a different ball game. It was honestly like I can't even describe just the heaviness that left my day to day, because of I'm contributing to the operational day to day of the actual company and how it's functioning, how it's running. So that was honestly just a nice shift to not feel as pressured of what you need to do. And it was also just a nice environment just to get to really understand, like I mentioned, operationally, how this business really runs, from how they get their revenues, what makes these expenses, how they allocate just different things that high level in audit, I'm just seeing it for what it is, face value, but not digging deeper into understanding how this actually is done and performed every day. So that was something I definitely appreciated in my role, because I got to do a lot of just the weekly billing and like, this is happening because XYZ and this is the result we're expecting. So that tangible result of what I was doing was really cool to see in real time. And then the last aspect is just the environment I was in terms of being at an entertainment and media company. It was cool being able to see what was going to be in the works, like what movies were coming out or what shows were like going to happen, and just having that atmosphere was really exciting. So I will give props for just, if even if I feel like you're not in entertainment or media, just being able to really understand and see other aspects of your day-to-day, where you see how the business functions, how they're marketing, how they're doing different aspects. I think that's such a benefit of being in industry and just really seeing that side of things. So now I'll pivot though, in terms of what I learned did not work for me and what I saw just wasn't for me in the long term. So the idea of, people who are in these industry jobs, for the most part, I feel like people are, once they get there, they're comfortable in their position. So I would say in general, I had two different bosses. They'd been there for, I guess, like more than 5 years. And it's great for like what their stage in the career, their stage in their life. They were married, had kids. So they were in a great position just to have this job and like really have something stable and not really worry. That's from my perspective, anyways. But for me, longevity, I saw it was a situation where I'm here and I really can't get to there because there's me and then them, and there's nothing in between. And so that's something that I saw in terms of how I am personally. I get bored. So me doing the same thing, it just wasn't going to be an option. So that was like really something that came to light after about 3.5 years. Well, not even after 3.5 years, I think after the first year. But I stayed until 4 years, essentially trying to make it work, trying to see something else, but it was hard. And to piggyback off that, how I mentioned I had two different bosses who were in their careers for a while. People love to like stay where they're at. So it's like, it's very common. It's like if people are happy, like why would they change what they want to change? But that made it hard for me, eager to be like, what's the next thing? Where do I go? Nothing's open for you. So that was like the drawback there in terms of I'm eager, what's next? How long do I want to wait? And I think that's the thing, was how long did I want to wait? And I was not trying to wait years for something and just like hoping for something year over year. I just didn't see that as a long-term solution for myself. So yeah, that was kind of the biggest drawback for me in that sense, because I did want to be able to, see more things, do more things, but it's like a waiting game. And while entertainment's cool, at the end of the day, it wasn't like my passion to be doing accounting and finance, because at the end of the day, I am still behind a computer working in Excel, and that really came to light for me. I'm doing this work, but at the end of the day, it just really doesn't bring much value for me and how I'm impacting like others, essentially. So that kind of made me realize, okay, I need to have more impact in the work that I do, and I just don't want to be behind that Excel while things are happening around me. And yeah, ultimately, I mentioned before, I stayed for almost 4 years trying to make it work, trying to find a different avenue, but it didn't work out. So I decided to leave. In part 3, I'll tell you about my current experience working in tech. So you'll see. But yeah, thanks for listening, and would love to hear insights if you've been in that position where you transitioned from Big Four to industry. What did that look like? What did you learn? And how have you navigated it?